In the depths of our darkest moments, when the world seems to crumble around us, a whisper echoes through the silence. I am here! It's not the booming voice we might expect from the heavens, but a gentle reassurance that seeps into our very souls. This, dear friends, is the voice of God, ever present, ever loving and eternally concerned with your struggles and triumphs. Imagine for a moment the vastness of the universe, billions of galaxies, trillions of stars, and countless planets spinning in the cosmic dance of creation. Now, zoom in past the swirling nebulae, through the star systems, down to our pale blue dot, further still, to your neighborhood, your home, to you, sitting there perhaps with tears in your eyes or a heavy heart. In all of this immensity, God's gaze is fixed upon you. You are not lost in the crowd. You are not a statistic. You are cherished. Why, you might ask, does it often feel like our prayers hit a ceiling? Why does silence greet our most fervent pleas? The answer lies not in God's absence, but in the very nature of faith itself. Faith is not a transaction. It's a relationship. And like any relationship, it requires patience, trust, and above all, communication. Prayer is that lifeline, that unbreakable connection between your heart and the divine. Think back to a time when you felt truly heard. Perhaps it was a friend who sat with you in silence, or a loved one who knew exactly what to say. That feeling of being understood, of being seen, that's but a fraction of how God perceives you. Every tear you shed, every joy you experience, every fear that grips your heart, God is there witnessing, comforting, celebrating. In the tapestry of your life, every thread has purpose. The dark threads of sorrow and struggle are not mistakes or punishments. They are essential parts of the masterpiece God is weaving. Your trials are not invisible to him. In fact, they are the very places where his love shines the brightest, if only we have eyes to see. Consider the story of Joseph in the Bible. Sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused, imprisoned, his life seemed a series of cruel twists. Yet through it all, God was working, moulding Joseph into the man who would save nations from famine. Your struggles, like Joseph's, are not the end of your story. They are the crucible in which your purpose is being forged. Prayer is not about changing God's mind. It's about aligning our hearts with his will. It's in those quiet moments of communion that we find strength we didn't know we possessed, peace that defies understanding, and hope that refuses to be extinguished. Every prayer, whether a desperate cry or a whispered thank you, is treasured by the Creator of the universe. But what of unanswered prayers? The illness that doesn't heal, the relationship that doesn't mend, the dream that remains out of reach. Here lies one of faith's greatest mysteries and its most profound truths. God's no is not rejection. It's redirection. It's an invitation to trust beyond what we can see, to believe that there's a bigger picture our limited vision cannot yet comprehend. In the Garden of Gethsemane, even Jesus prayed for the cup of suffering to pass from him, yet in that same breath he surrendered to God's will. This is the essence of mature faith, not the absence of fear or doubt, but the courage to trust despite them. Your unanswered prayers are not unheard. They're being answered in ways you may not yet recognize. Let's pause for a moment and reflect on the times when you felt God's presence most keenly. Was it in a moment of breathtaking beauty, in the kindness of a stranger, or perhaps in the depths of despair when an inexplicable peace washed over you? These are not coincidences. They are love notes from the divine, reminders that you are seen, known, and infinitely valued. The practice of gratitude can transform our prayer life. Even in our darkest hours, there is always something to be thankful for. The very breath in your lungs is a gift. The ability to feel, to think, to love, these are miracles we often take for granted. When we approach God with a heart of thankfulness, we open ourselves to recognizing his work in our lives. Consider the power of persistent prayer. Like water wearing away at a stone, your consistent communication with God shapes not just your circumstances, but your very being. It's in this constant dialogue that we are slowly transformed, our character refined, our perspective widened. The answers to our prayers often come in the form of personal growth, of increased capacity to love and forgive. There's a beautiful paradox in the act of prayer. In laying our burdens at God's feet, we don't become weaker or more dependent. Instead, we find a strength that goes beyond our own resources. It's as if, in acknowledging our limitations, we tap into a limitless source of power and grace. Remember, God is not a vending machine of blessings, nor a cosmic killjoy waiting to punish us. He is a loving Father, eager to commune with his children. Your prayers don't need to be eloquent or long. A simple help me or thank you can be just as powerful as the most beautifully crafted prayer. It's the sincerity of your heart that matters, not the elegance of your words. In times of waiting, when God seems silent, know that he is not idle. Often it's in these periods of apparent inactivity that the most significant work is being done in our hearts. Like a seed germinating underground, unseen growth is taking place. Your faithfulness in these moments does not go unnoticed. The community of faith plays a crucial role in our prayer lives. When we struggle to find the words, when our faith falters, our brothers and sisters can lift us up. There's immense power in collective prayer, in knowing that others are standing in the gap for us. Never underestimate the strength you can draw from fellow believers. As we navigate the complexities of life, it's easy to compartmentalize our faith, to relegate God to Sunday mornings or bedtime prayers. But God cares about every aspect of your life. Your work, your relationships, your dreams, and yes, even your mundane daily tasks. Invite him into every corner of your existence. You might be surprised at how the ordinary becomes sacred when viewed through the lens of faith. The Bible is filled with stories of imperfect people who dared to approach God honestly. David poured out his anger and despair in the Psalms. Job questioned God's justice, Thomas doubted. And yet God met each of them where they were. Your doubts and questions don't push God away. They're invitations for a deeper, more authentic relationship. In our fast-paced world, silence has become a rare commodity. Yet it's often in silence that we hear God most clearly. Make space in your life for quiet reflection. It doesn't have to be hours. Even a few minutes of stillness can open up channels of communication with the divine that our noisy lives often drown out. Your prayers have the power to change the world, not always in grand, miraculous ways, but in the subtle shifts of hearts and circumstances. Every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, every choice to forgive, these are answered prayers, changing the world one interaction at a time. In the journey of faith, there are seasons. Just as nature cycles through spring, summer, autumn, and winter, our spiritual lives have their own rhythms. There are times of abundant growth where every prayer seems answered and God's presence feels tangible. Then there are winters of the soul where doubt creeps in and heaven seems silent. Recognize these seasons for what they are, not punishments or abandonment, but natural cycles of spiritual growth. Even in the coldest winter, life stirs beneath the surface, preparing for a new spring. Consider the power of intercessory prayer, the act of praying on behalf of others. When we lift up the needs of friends, family, even strangers or enemies, we participate in a divine act of love. It's a selfless form of prayer that aligns our hearts with God's compassion for all of humanity. As you pray for others, you may find your own perspective shifting, your capacity for empathy growing. This is the transformative power of prayer at work within you. There's a beautiful concept in Hebrew called kavanah. It means direction, intention, or sincerity of the heart. In your prayers, cultivate kavanah. It's not about perfecting a formula or using the right word. It's about orienting your entire being towards God. When you pray with kavana, even the simplest words become profound. A heartfelt thank you can be more powerful than the most eloquent oration if it comes from a place of genuine gratitude and love. Sometimes the answer to our prayers comes in the form of a challenge. We pray for patience, and God gives us opportunities to practice it. We ask for courage, and we're faced with situations that require us to be brave. Remember, God is not just interested in changing your circumstances. He's invested in shaping your character. Embrace these challenges as divine invitations to grow, to become more of who you're meant to be. In our digital age, it's easy to become distracted, our attention fractured by endless notifications and the constant stream of information. But prayer requires presence. It asks us to be fully here in this moment with our Creator. Practice mindfulness in your prayer life. Notice the sensations in your body, the thoughts that flit through your mind. Offer them all to God. This kind of present, moment awareness can deepen your prayer life immeasurably. There's a tendency in our culture to view struggle as something to be avoided at all costs. But in the economy of God, struggle often serves a purpose. It's the resistance that strengthens our spiritual muscles, the friction that polishes our character. When you're in the midst of difficulty, instead of just praying for it to end, ask God what He wants you to learn from this experience. Your challenges may be the very tools God is using to equip you for your purpose. Consider the power of praise in your prayer life. It's easy to come to God with our lists of needs and wants. But when we focus on praising God for who He is, not just for what He does for us, we enter a different dimension of prayer. Praise lifts our eyes from our circumstances to the greatness of our God. It reminds us that the one we're praying to is infinitely capable, endlessly loving, and eternally faithful. Let praise be the foundation of your prayer life. In our individualistic society, it's easy to forget the communal aspect of faith. But we are not meant to journey alone. Find people you can pray with who will stand with you in faith when your own falters. There's something powerful about corporate prayer. It knits our hearts together, reminding us that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. In the early hours of the morning or in stolen moments throughout the day, know that you're joining your voice with countless others in a global symphony of prayer. As you pray, be open to unexpected answers. Sometimes God's response comes in forms we don't anticipate. It might be a chance encounter, an idea that suddenly pops into your mind, or a change in circumstances that at first seems unrelated to your prayer. Cultivate a spirit of expectancy and awareness. God often works in subtle ways, and recognizing His hand at work can revolutionize your prayer life. Remember, prayer is not just about words. Your very life can be a prayer. The way you treat others, the integrity with which you conduct your business, the love you show to your family, all of these can be acts of worship. As you go about your day, cultivate an awareness of God's presence. Let your actions be a continuous conversation with the divine. This doesn't mean you need to be solemn all the time. Joy, laughter, and celebration can all be forms of prayer too. In times of crisis, when words fail and hope seems distant, remember the practice of breath prayers. These are short, simple prayers that can be said in a single breath, often tied to the rhythm of your breathing. Lord, have mercy as you inhale. Christ, have mercy as you exhale. Or simply, Jesus on the inhale. I trust you on the inhale. I trust you on the exhale. These ancient practices can anchor your soul in turbulent times, reminding you that even your breath is a gift and an opportunity to connect with God. As we draw this reflection to a close, remember this. God's love for you is not based on your performance. It doesn't waver with your moods or falter with your moods or falter with your failures. It is constant, unwavering, and eternal. In your joy and in your sorrow, in your triumphs and your failures, you are loved beyond measure. So keep praying, dear one. Not because you need to earn God's attention or favor, but because He delights in communicating with you. Your prayers are precious to Him. They are the sweet aroma of a child's trust, the music of a heart attuned to the divine. In every prayer, you draw closer to the heart of a Father who has loved you since before time began. And in those moments when words fail you, when your spirit is too weary to form coherent thoughts, remember that even your silence is a prayer. The tears that fall silently, the longings too deep for words, God understands them all. You are heard. You are seen. You are loved. As you face the challenges and joys that lie ahead, carry this truth with you. The God who set the stars in motion, who breathed life into existence, cares deeply and personally about what you're going through. Keep reaching out. Keep trusting. Keep praying. For in the tapestry of eternity, your prayers are golden threads, weaving a story more beautiful than you can imagine.